Hello and welcome to another episode of Project Thompson. I'm Dennis Foley, and behind the camera as always is Chong. Before we go any further, we've got some exciting news that we'd like to share with you. Recently we've been picked up by MTS TV's on-demand series called Stories From Home. Stories From Home is available to all MTS TV customers. It's on the on-demand feature, filled with great content from filmmakers from all over Manitoba. Crazy excited about it. Project Thompson is going to be exclusively on there for a couple of months, and then we'll eventually spread out to the social media as we've been doing so far. Moving on to episode 4, we're continuing with our conversations on volunteerism within the community of Thompson. We're talking with the people who've got what I like to call boots to the ground. People who go above and beyond the day-to-day routine to do what they can to make the city of Thompson a better place at a not-for-pay capacity. That brings us to our next guest, Bobbi Montean. Bobbi Montean is well known as a volunteer in the community. She's been seen all over with nonprofit organizations, charitable events. Bobbi, I want to thank you for sitting down with us on Project Thompson. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
This is exciting stuff. You're exactly the type of person that we want to showcase, and we want to let people who live in Thompson, outside of Thompson, know all about. I call it boots to the ground, because there are people in town who literally are doing all the hard work that nobody else wants to do. So once again, thank you for joining us. We'll just kind of start off with how long have you lived in Thompson?
I've been here since 1988. And I came here to go to the Faculty of Social Work for 4 years, and then I was going to go back home to the PA. And I've stayed here ever since.
So that would be over almost 30 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's. Is it just you here, or do you have any family?
I've got some family here, and I got a sister that lives here, niece and nephews, and one of my daughters. As
I've mentioned, with the charitable groups that you've been with, the nonprofit organizations, can you list off some of these groups that you've been involved with over the last 20 odd plus years in Thompson?
There's a lot, and I really narrowed it down to some specific ones. I actually in 1989, I became involved with the Canadian Red Cross when we had the major fires up in the north here, and I have been with them since that time, and I still volunteer with them and get deployed out to different events or different kinds of disasters in Manitoba and in Ontario as well. And I've been with the Citizens on Patrol program in Thompson for I don't know how many years now. I was like one of the first probably 10 people to sign up for the program when it started here. And I love doing that. Absolutely love doing it. Get to meet all kinds of people from absolutely everywhere. And I'm also involved with, oh my God, I can't remember anymore.
So many things, right?
Yeah, lots of things.
So Bobbi, I guess one of the questions are, and it gets asked with a lot of different volunteers, is when you're working a full-time job, what drives you to, in this case, especially with all the organizations you're involved with, start up another full-time job by working with things like, the Red Cross, Citizens on Patrol, Operation Red Nose, Our Home Kikanaw, and, so on and so on and so on. I mean, I can keep going all day. Where do you find the time and why?
I don't sleep. No, just kidding. Well, I don't have any kids at home, so that gives me a lot of time.
Was it difficult when you did have kids at home?
Well, I had a lot of different kids, a lot of foster kids, and I also adopted.
Yeah.
So it sort of became like part of the norm, and they knew that I was out volunteering or working. And fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes my work took me away from the community as well.
Okay.
So I was pretty lucky to have a roommate who was really, 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 really super cool with the kids. And then later, when the kids got older themselves and they were able to take care of themselves.
The amount of time spent away from home after the work hours, it can become rather taxing. And what I'm seeing here seeing a lot of recognition. And it's one of the things that I love about being in Thompson, because Thompson is a great place for, one, people to volunteer, businesses to help out with the volunteers, and the recognition. Going back to that, you haven't always, going back to that, there's the Women of Distinction Award. Now I've heard that you've been nominated for quite a few years, and you've denied the nomination. Like, why is that? I mean, a lot of people enjoy being recognized for the good things that they do, but why would you step aside from that?
Because if I was doing it for the awards, that for me, that's the wrong reason to be doing anything. And I do things because I see a need, and being able to step in and to do what I need to do or what the community needs to have done, that's really, really important to me.
So we're going to go back, and I think it was 2014. You finally accepted the nomination.
I did, yes. I had a very determined young lady who was new to the community, who was so, she became very, very, very like my shadow until I said yes.
How was that experience? I mean, to go from not wanting to be recognized, which is a very honorable thing, but there had to have been a positive feeling during that experience, you know, to have the community say, you know what, thank you.
There was. Actually, the YWCA does it up really, really excellent, and how they treat everybody. And I felt like I was like a star or a queen or something, and that was a good feeling. And I had a lot of, at the event itself, I had a lot of my friends and family that come and joined. And
okay.
I think that we were the loudest tables at the event. So we were constantly laughing and talking, and you know, we jumped up and took pictures and everything, and we were allowed to do that. So that was really, really cool. And there was one of the women that it was co-nominated with, or she was one of the other nominees. And there was Sharon McKay.
Okay.
And Sharon's mom and my mom used to hang together all the time before my mom passed. And Sharon's family and my family, you know, her siblings and myself, we grew up, and everybody sort of was together, and it was because of the relationship that our moms had. So it was really cool to have that experience with Sharon.
Absolutely.
And it was like, holy smoker, holy.
Somebody that's, I guess, has almost been a bit of a mentor growing up, you know, somebody that you look up to, and now you're both being nominated at the same level. I can see it's clearly an emotional thing for you, and I've heard a lot of very good things about the way the YWCA runs the event.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is awesome to recognize not only volunteerism, but you know, the strong women in our community who are willing to step up, take the time out of their home, take the time away from the job, and you know, just fulfill that need. At
this year's nomination banquet, award banquet, they said that they have counted over 60 women that have been nominated over the years. And that was like, wow, that's a big number to hear for a community our size, you know?
Absolutely. I had the pleasure just recently to MC the City Thompson Volunteer of the Year Award.
Yes.
Which was in itself, I mean, being the MC, and it was wonderful because you were actually one of the nominees as well. And to read the letters that were sent in from people to talk about all the good things that the nominees have done, you know, yeah, there was only one award being given, but at the same time, we were celebrating everybody.
Yeah.
And it was very humbling. I've always felt like I've done a lot, but when I'm looking at the names, you know, you were on there. We've had, you know, Jeff Lamatang. We've had Nick DeVigilio. We've had Esther Latchman, who won the award.
Yes.
And those people there alone, you know, have done so much for the city out of their own time. And you know what? Sometimes, as you've explained, it's taken away from that family life. You know, definitely hats off. I mean, it's a struggle, it's a challenge. But when we talk about it again, having that, being in that atmosphere where you're being recognized, even though we don't do it for the recognition, it's definitely, it must be, you know, very welcoming and warming to know that people are seeing that the work is being done and they're appreciative.
You know, like I think of the Y again, and the history behind their award, even in local history in Thompson, and it's very, very interesting. Like, for instance, when it was announced last year who all the nominees were, and you know, people saw my name and everything, and Saya Gogoski had come up to me one day and she said, you know, I want to congratulate you on your nomination for the Women of Distinction Award. Word of wisdom, no, they do break. And apparently when she received it a couple of years before, she dropped it in the parking lot and it shattered.
Oh, no.
And the Y replaced it for her. So that was really, you know, that was really cool. And the fact that she's passing on, even though it may seem so like funny, that she's passing along those words of wisdom.
Yeah.
And so actually when I did my acceptance speech, that was the first thing that I said, you know, and it was like, wow. And then this year when they had the awards and I went up and was passing along the same, you know, words that Saya had said to me, and Brielle, she said, Saya already told me that.
She went on the list already.
Yeah, you know, and so it's nice, like, to be a part of the history.
Doing a lot of talk to the public safety. Tell me a little bit about your involvement with the Citizens on Patrol.
I actually got involved with them. I don't remember what year, but I remember how it came about. And I was living on what was Davis Bay at the time, and we had a lot of issues with the kids going from Davis Bay and the trailer court to school, and so we decided to form a parent patrol.
Okay.
And we patrolled the area between like Baffin Park area and Hudson and James, and made sure that the kids got to school safely. And we were actually the ones that got the stop signs by the school. We were the ones who got those put up and implemented, because that was one of the safety issues that was immediately, you know, seen and addressed. Along with, we had the backup and the support of Gary Davis, who was the principal at Burtwood School at the time. And when we were doing this, it was around the same time that across Canada, patrol groups were starting to be implemented by the RCMP. So Mary Lane, who was the community relations officer here way back when, approached us, and she said, you know, you guys might want to think about doing this. And we just, most of us sort of went, no, you know what, because like that's too official or whatever, right? But then I had one of our neighbors on Davis Bay who joined, and he got the paperwork for me and told me he needed a partner to patrol with. And we immediately just so much, we were having fun, really. You know, there's been times when, you know, we've come across situations that are not so fun. And but we've done really, really cool things, like, you know, seen house fires and have been able to get the people out while we've waited for the fire department. We've saved lives in that respect. There's been a few nights when we've been flagged down and have assisted with people on the ground that needed medical attention. We were able to get them the ambulance. And one night, it was actually 2 young people that needed help, and they were pulled out of the bush and left on the road.
Wow.
And we were able to get them. The ambulances came, and I remember that night the captain, like, he still talks about that night to him because it was such a powerful impact with, you know, the fire and emergency services, the RCMP, and our citizens on patrol. made a huge impact that night on those young girls' lives. I don't know who they were, or who they are, or anything, or where they are, or anything like that. But I just remember that feeling of being there and being a part of that awesomeness. And there's actually a couple times when one year we had some American tourists, their tire needed to be changed, and we were able to help them with that. And then a couple of years later, we come across this group of Americans again, and they needed diesel. And the one guy comes up to me and he says, "You're still doing this?" He was part of the group where we helped change the tire, you know.
So basically we're seeing, you know, the citizens on patrol interacting in both, you know, kind of simple, helping out the average person with a tire changeover or find fuel.
Helping a visitor carry her groceries from Safeway over to the hotel.
And then all the way over to, you know, assisting with the RCMP and fire emergency services.
Yeah.
Would also like to talk a little bit about another organization you're part of is Operation Red Nose.
Sure.
For those of you that don't know about Operation Red Nose, if you could just give us a brief rundown of it.
Sure. It's a drive home service that is provided during the holiday season, Christmas season, usually the last weekend in November until New Year's Eve, and we do it every weekend during December. And it's, you need to have a vehicle.
Okay.
Because we drive you in your vehicle.
Yeah.
We're not a taxi service. And, if you just call us, you don't even have to be drinking. If you just want to contribute, maybe, or are really, really tired, you know, you got up at 5 o'clock that morning to be with the sick kid and you worked all day and then you had this function after work and you just don't feel like you're safe to drive home or to wherever you need to go.
I myself actually used the service for the first time this year.
Oh, okay. Last year, yes.
Last year, sorry, 2014. And it was great. Everybody was, it was quick, it was efficient, everybody was great to deal with.
It wouldn't happen to be our mayor that drove you home that night, right?
I don't know if it was.
Our mayor and his wife did come out and volunteer one night.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're getting people at that high level of we'll say politics in our city that are getting involved, which is great. Speaks volumes to volunteerism. Like I said, you know, from somebody working a 9-to-5 job to somebody working politics, everybody's helping out. So with Operation Red Nose, how many volunteers typically do you get throughout the course of the season? And what exactly happens with the funds that are donated?
The funds that are donated go to local charities, and specifically charities that work with youth, because that's something that is mandated from the National Red Nose. And the number of volunteers we get every year changes. Last year I didn't work with Red Nose. I had other things going on, and so I backed away, and there was a whole other community committee that stepped up to the plate. The last year that I worked Red Nose and organizing it and everything was in 2013, and we had a competition going with the PAW, and we said that we could beat them in the numbers and everything, right?
Yeah.
And we beat them in the number of volunteers, the money donated, but we didn't beat them in the number
of rides.
They really, they were almost at 500 rides.
That is a very good place to lose a competition, if as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if we get a rivalry with another community on how many people we can get home safely, I would have no issues with our community or that community getting high numbers.
Well, the PAW had been having trouble, not major trouble, but their number of rides was decreasing. Their number of volunteers was, I think, about the same. So we just decided, you know what, this is like our, a major year for us, and let's just do it. And they took us up on the offer, and unfortunately, we have Mark Barron. He used to work with CHTM here. Okay. And he now works in the PAW, right? And so he was like all about that competition. And he was very, very supportive and pushed it lots and was able to support the PAW Red Nose in doing it. And it worked for them.
Awesome.
So we're really, really happy that we're able to do that for them.
So I'm going to kind of throw a tricky question here at you.
Sure.
We've asked previous guests, the tough question of, what do you love about Thompson and what is something that you don't love about Thompson? I'm going to ask you the same question, but we're going to word it a little bit different. I've got some pretty in-depth answers from previous guests. What I'm going to ask you is, first of all, what is it about Thompson that you absolutely love?
Sense of community. It's very, very huge, and the multiculturalism that's here. I always reference that one year I was sitting in the plaza with the Salvation Army kettle, and there was two guys walking in the hallway, both of them speaking in their home language and on the cell phones, and they were both irritated, and both of them were waiting for their wives to come out of the grocery store. So it's like, two different languages, two different cultures, but they were doing the same thing.
Yeah, having the same issue.
Yeah. And, like, we're so different, but we're so much the same.
I've seen that in town, and just kind of running off on that a little bit too, that when you look at all the organizations and nonprofit groups, I mean, you do see people from all over the world who've come together in Thompson, and I've seen that need. And going back to the Volunteer of the Year Awards that I did, we actually had multiple people nominated from far reaches of the world who've come to Thompson, who've seen the need and said, okay, let's jump in there.
Yeah.
So, that's a very wonderful answer, and I absolutely love it, and I 100% agree that Thompson's very special in that sense.
I find that the spirituality choices that are here is absolutely amazing. I always call the one street here Church Row because it's got everything, from the mosque to the Salvation Army to the Christian Center to the Baptist Church to the Jehovah Hall to, and the list goes on and on.
Absolutely.
and on. And, wraps all the way back around down Cree Road with the temple and, the United Church, and so it's really, really amazing.
So we live in a community that accepts everybody for who they are, whether it be religion, spirituality, faith, and stuff like that. And
I would hope that people are accepted for, including their spiritual beliefs.
And we see it. I mean, we've got different, like I said, we see these organizations, these events, and we see people from all aspects of faith, spirituality, and, from all over the world who are working together to fulfill the specific need at the time within Thompson. Going off of that, what do you feel creates a negative image to people who live outside of Thompson?
I think people who, I've actually had this experience where I've met people and they've lived here for 30 plus years, but I'm just meeting them now. And what did you do? And I can't believe that people never got out and volunteered in the community. And that just amazes me. And I know people that have come here and decided that there's nothing here for them and not stepped up to the plate to make something happen either. And that's what I don't like. That I get really, really passionate about that. Passionately pissed off.
You know what? And that's completely fair. The biggest thing, and then something that I've always been taught, and I pass this on to my son, that if you see something that you want to have happen within the community and nobody is doing it, there is nothing stopping you from getting involved in making it happen.
Yeah.
And with my experiences with the organizations I've been a part of in Thompson, there's support. And you've seen it too. I mean,
huge.
None of these organizations could do anything if it wasn't for the support from other volunteers and from the local businesses in Thompson. And I spoke very highly of it with Emily in our last video about the amazing support financially from businesses in this community. It's outstanding.
It's huge. I know, I can relate that to Operation Red Nose, and part of our funding comes from our provincial hosts, and we get that because it's on the number of rides that we do, based on the number of rides, mileage that we drive, and a lot of the red nose groups in Manitoba use that to pay their expenses, and we're able to roll it back into the community because our expenses are probably, I'm going to say, less than $300 maybe, and other groups in Manitoba are paying out a couple $1,000. And it comes down to, we have like Lakeview Inn and Suites, that's our home.
Yeah.
They give us that space as a contribution. And we've had restaurants that have been feeding us every year since we existed, the first year here. And one of them is a really good example is Pizza Hut. Every single year, they don't say no, they just say when and how many do you want.
What do you need and when you need it. Yeah, absolutely. If you were to give a message out, and if you were to talk to somebody within the community and give some sort of advice, I mean, you want to see more people volunteer. Mm-hmm. If you had somebody in front of you right now, say I'm that person, what would you tell me to get me involved? What would you do to get me motivated?
I always ask people what their interests are.
Okay.
Because that's really important. I think if photography, for instance, and if I'm thinking, well, I need somebody to move tables for me, probably not going to, be a good thing.
Yeah.
But there's always, ways to be working around certain things. And I like to know what people are interested in, what they've done in the previous, where they moved from, mm-hmm. and just to see what their skills are as well. And, some people have been able to come here and build up their skills. And not just work-wise, but in everything that they do in the community. And I know that we've had like single people moving here from different communities, different parts of the world. Yeah. And have become involved in, like, with Operation Red Nose, for instance, because it's a great opportunity to meet other people. And I always need to find out what their interests are. We have some of the young guys that come in here as part of their missionary work, and they always come to see me
You're talking about two gentlemen from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Mm-hmm. I've actually met them in multiple capacities, helping out, and I see them everywhere.
In fact, the two that are here now were serving at the Wise Woman of Distinction. So
I saw the photos of that. That was great.
Yeah.
So basically what Bobbi's saying is, if you want to see something happen in the community, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Get involved.
Absolutely.
Find other people who have that same interest as you do, and go.
There's so many different ways of doing that now, specifically with social media.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people that are very active on it. And even if you're interested in starting your own business or doing something on the side other than your major work, it's always almost something is available in some realm. So,
with all the stuff that you've done, and I've asked this of some of our other guests too, who is the person that's inspired you and kind of been that guiding light and we'll say mentor to be as involved as you are? There's always a reason why people do things. What's your motivation? Like, who lit that spark within you that said, you know what, I'm going to take my free time and I'm going to help somebody else?
Well, I have to say, before I moved to Thompson, when I was living in the PA, through my volunteer work there, I met and volunteered with Colleen Smook.
Okay, yeah, I know her quite well.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who doesn't know her. Like, if you live here for longer than a year and you don't know Colleen, well, then there's really something wrong. Yeah, we actually volunteered for the Huggins.
Okay.
And, she would help bring kids down to the PA, and I would help bring kids up to Thompson. And when I moved up here, it was really cool to have that solid, and then being introduced to different people. And John Donovan is another person who...
Absolutely.
Who was part of the whole Huggin thing that I met before I moved here. So I think really to have anybody that that really had the same kind of thoughts as my mom did would be... I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
We were just talking about my mom the other day. And my sister is going through cancer right now. So it's been a struggle.
Absolutely. I remember we were talking about this the other night too when we were sitting down.
Yeah, you know, I was adopted, and she chose me.
Yep.
But I think Colleen really, and John really had the same kind of trend or, thoughts that my mom did regarding volunteerism and getting involved. So it was easy to have them to be an important part of helping my roots grow here.
It's I can't help but to get a little emotional here too. I mean, when you talk about your mom, I spend so much time asking people what their inspiration, what takes them where they want to go. I'm the biggest mama's boy that you've ever met in your life. With all the stuff that I've been involved with, it almost seems like everything I do because I want to make her even more proud. And she's passed away many years ago, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's amazing how someone in your family who we expect, that they have to love you, that but you're coming from a position where you've had a very strong woman who has said, you know what, you're going to be my daughter. And
she gave me no choice, really.
Yeah. And I love the emotion, because when we're talking about volunteers, and when we talked about the women of distinction, we talked about Sharon McKay, who was a very close friend of your mom and close friend of
her
you.
mom and my mom were really, really close.
Absolutely. It's great. Family is a wonderful thing to have.
It's so important. I think of like my kids, and my one girl, she volunteers almost as much as I do in some ways, and then my other one is like, don't even, And she said to me, "You made me do it too much when I was younger, so I don't want to do it anymore." I was like, wow.
You know what? That could change over time too. I mean, a lot of memories come from that too, and it's character building when you're doing this stuff. It really helps develop us to be the people that we are.
Absolutely. In fact, if you were to ask Steve Ashton why he hired me, like 11, 12 years ago, he would say it's because I was in the paper more than him. And 99% of why I was in the paper was always because of the volunteer stuff that I was doing, organizing, trying to do something. And I say probably my last 4 or 5 jobs that I've had in my life that have been because of my volunteerism. And that's been so important. It's helped me build up my skills, my confidence, and my abilities. And to be able to not be scared to step out and say, hey, this needs to be done, and you're either with me or I'm doing it on my own.
Well, it's amazing how you can get so much personal growth from doing something for either other people or for a group. We talk about, I heard this, I don't know where I heard this from. I heard it a few years ago. And I used this quote at the Volunteer of the Year Award, and it goes, volunteers aren't paid because they're worthless. They're not paid because they're priceless. And total stand by it. And we see that, and there's nothing that, when we talk about with the work that was done with Citizens on Patrol and the people that you've helped out, there's no dollar amount that could be attached to that.
No, absolutely not.
Those relationships that you've built over the years, you can't get paid for that, because there's no price on it. I absolutely love it. And I've said it before. I'll say it again, and I'll tell anybody inside outside Thompson. This is the kind of stuff, boots to the ground, that build Thompson and make it a great place. Are we perfect? No. But we've got you, we've got all the other people that are involved doing what they can to make Thompson better. Thank you so much, and I want to say not only thank you for becoming part of Project Thompson, but thank you for all the work that you've done. And I know you don't do it for the recognition. I know I look around at the table here, and I see we've got an award back there. you've received some recognition, but that's not necessarily that you want to be in the limelight. It's that there are people who see it, who are either not in a position to do what you do and want you to know that you're doing it.
I sort of have a different take on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I want to hear your take. Tell me your take.
My take is that people are starting to go like, oh, she's been doing that for a long time. I'm getting old.
I don't think you're getting old. I like I said, when I read everything from the Volunteer of the Year Awards, the words that were used to and I even read off your nomination list. I mean, it's phenomenal, the emotion that is going into it. And they want to share it with everybody. And that's what we're doing with Project Thompson. We want to share Thompson's experience, the people of Thompson, and what's happening in Thompson to the whole world. We, in Thompson, we know what's going on in Thompson, but we want everybody to see it. So once again, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you all for taking the time watching another episode of Project Thompson. This has been episode 4 in a 6-episode series for our first season. Once again, be on the lookout if you are a subscriber on MTS TV. We will be on demand with the Stories From Home programming. My name is Dennis Foley, and I am Project Thompson.
My name is Bobbi Montean, and I am Project Thompson.
If we get a rivalry, what do you do with, say, some of the funds that come from Operation Red Nose?
That goes to community charities. That. That's my first like that.
Sorry. What are you doing? It's not time to read. He's looking at a photography book while we're doing Project Thompson. Are we in the photography section?
Well, yeah, it looks like there's a photography section.
We are doing film and photography in the photography section
There's
of the
also
library.
a Thompson history book there too.
Yeah, there's technology and
A Thompson history book.
Yeah, right on the bottom shelf there, where that big pink book is.
yeah,
Pink and gray.
U.S. presidents, Thompson, and City.
So U.S. presidents next to the history of Thompson, Manitoba.
Yeah.
I want to narrate a wildlife video. That would be so fun. A wildlife
awesome.
video. Like an opossum or something like that. Just the angry opossum just crawls along the tree and snatches up, I don't know, a gorilla.
A gorilla? Oh, I don't think this is awesome.
Hey, it's in the north.
Raccoons.
Yeah, I think they're crazier in the north. This is common knowledge. Cool beans.
Common,
Yeah.
common misconceptions sometimes.
Are you trying to tell me that we gotta wrap this up?
Yep.
Why? But I'm having fun. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. So until we see you again, thank you and enjoy the interwebs. I don't know.